love going back to relive the 1980s for just a little bit on a rainy, messy Wednesday morning. It is Wednesday, right? Let me just confirm that. Indeed, it is. And we play some Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins and remember the 80s because we remember Val Kilmer, as we learned early this morning, the star, one of the stars of Top Gun. And he played Batman, and he did lots of other things as well. How about the parody, farcical, satirical movie, Top Secret? Remember that one? Anyway, Val Kilmer lost at the age of 65, and he was, of course, Top Gun's or Tom Cruise's Maverick's nemesis, Iceman, in that Top Gun movie back in the 1980s. And so we remember Val, who passed far too early at the age of 65. Hey, good Wednesday morning. Thanks very much for stopping by, spending some of your time with us here on the show today. Yes, in answer to the email I got from Dennis, appreciate your emails. Mike at 570news.com keeps me connected to home while I'm away. The weather is rotten here too. Thank you for asking. It began about an hour ago, mostly on this end, though. We're anticipating rainfall. High is going to get up to 17 today in Flint, but it's going to be one of those days where I don't think I get to spend a whole lot of time outdoors. We are socked in the same way you are back home. Something struck me this morning, too, about America and what it does not do right. Like, I love you, America. I really do. In fact, you'll find out how close our relations still are in about 10 minutes here on the show this morning. But here's something that America does not do well. Well, I mean, I guess vote would be one thing, right? Not a very good job did they do in the last election here. But also coffee. What is it with coffee in the United States of God bless America? It's like brown water over here. I cannot wait to get back home to my blacksmith and bean. I'm looking forward to a lot of other things coming back home, but one of them is my blacksmith and bean coffee right there, made in the region of Waterloo. I just don't know what it is about Americans and their coffee. They don't know how to make a good cup of coffee. They do a lot of other things really well. Making coffee is not one of them. And yes, by the way, I'm sure you would have heard during All News Mornings today, we traveled all the way to Flint, coming down on Monday, here for the game last night, and unfortunately, not the result the Kitchener Rangers were looking for. A 2-0 loss to the Firebirds, so we have ourselves a series, but fear not, Rangers fans. That's how these things are supposed to work. Not too many times do you win every single game in a series. So Paul Fixter is going to join me a little later this morning here in Flint, and we'll recap what happened last night and look ahead to the remainder of the series, including tomorrow night's big Game 4. But from 4 to 5, how about a Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10. Money can't buy.
And we will start your Farwell Show 5 at the beginning. Number 1, and we've got all eyes on U.S. President Donald Trump today as he prepares to hit multiple countries with reciprocal tariffs. Liberal leader Mark Carney pausing his campaign to take part in meetings in Ottawa ahead of those expected levies. Trump is expected to discuss the reciprocal tariff agenda at the White House around 4 o'clock today. He said in early March that the pause would last until April the 2nd. That, of course, is today, Liberation Day, as Donald Trump calls it. Number 2, students at Elizabeth Ziegler Public School in Kitchener will not be returning to the school this year or next. Next year, most students who attend Elizabeth Ziegler will attend Sandown Public School instead. To help accommodate those students, the Waterloo Region District School Board is going to be adding 12 portable classrooms to the Sandown School grounds, much like what has been installed at Elizabeth Ziegler right now. As you know, the school not structurally sound right now, and the board wants to ensure as many students as possible can continue going to the same school building next year, hence the move to Sandown. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, speed cameras in the region issued more than 37,000 tickets last year, generating $1.6 million in revenue for the region. It's a little bit more than the 1.5 million bucks that was forecast to be collected. But the region says the cost to operate the program was $2 million, meaning it ran on a $400,000 deficit. Now, the region only had 4 cameras rotating around more than a dozen areas last year, but more cameras have recently been added to the program. Number 4 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, get your tickets for Game 5 in the playoff series between the Rangers and the Firebirds. Flint picking up a 2-0 win last night, their first victory in this series. Kitchener still leads 2-1. Game 4 tomorrow here in Flint, but we will be coming home for a Game 5 on Friday with tickets going on sale this morning at 10. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, speaking of hockey, Rogers will remain your home for NHL hockey for another 12 years. The parent company of this radio station has signed another 12-year deal to be the exclusive carrier of NHL games. The new deal begins in 2026-27 when the current 12-year deal ends, and Rogers will be the home of the NHL through the 2037-38 season. Financial terms have not been confirmed, but it's lots of billions of dollars. We know that for sure. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning. We'll take a break. When we come back, what do you think would happen to a guy? Let's just say he's a guy about 5'0" with a big mouth. What do you think would happen to that guy if he walked around Flint and asked people in Flint, Michigan, what they think of Canadians? What kind of reception would that guy get? You'll find out coming up right after this on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Live from the Hilton Garden Inn in Flint, Michigan. Good morning. As we do the show remotely here in Flint for another Rangers game before we head home late tomorrow night and into Friday morning. And then, as you know, there will be a Game 5 in this series at minimum because the Firebirds picked up a win over the Rangers last night. And let me tell you this, too. Being south of the border is not as difficult or ominous as you might think it would be, given everything that's going on between our two countries politically right now. More on that in a moment, but you know, the moment we begin the show every day, our phone lines are open to you, and I love the opportunity to stay connected to you back home in the region at 519-570-2545, star 570, or 1-800-570-5715. Dave is with us on the phone this morning. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Mike. I know yesterday was Tuesday. However, were you expecting or were you surprised at the sections of empty seats there at the game, on a playoff game?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dave. And I love the folks in Flint. They work hard behind the scenes to put the best product on the ice and do a good job around the arena. But it was rather embarrassing, to be honest. So I don't know if I was surprised. I guess probably. They had said coming in it would not be a sellout, but that was well below sellout numbers at the Dort Financial Center last night. A really poor crowd.
Right. Go Rangers, go.
Go Rangers, go. Thanks, Dave. Nice to hear from you this morning. And yeah, if you don't mind, I know you've already been there twice at almost 7,000, but let's do it one more time in round one on Friday night, okay? And then the fans that travel to Kitchener from Flint can experience what it should be like in the playoffs. Look, not every market is Kitchener. Not every market is Windsor or London. We know this, but it was really disappointing to see. I've been looking forward, just personally and selfishly, I've been looking forward to a playoff game in Flint since the Firebirds joined the league. There's just something about the arena, its design, that I thought, boy, when you get into the playoffs in this town, it's going to be electric in here. And it was anything but last night. However, the Firebirds did pick up the 2-0 win. And so now the Rangers are facing a much bigger game tomorrow night, looking for a 3-1 series lead. So I mentioned this before the break, and let me get to it. I mean, I told you yesterday that the trip coming down here on Monday was no different than any other trip I've ever gone on to the United States. Crossing the border was the same as it's always been. No difficulties at all. But we know there are some political tensions between our two countries, Canada and the U.S. And so I just thought, well, I'm here. Why don't I try to find out how folks in at least this part of the United States feel about us? So before the hockey game last night, I took my recorder with me to find out exactly that. How do you feel about us in Canada, Flint? And here's what I heard. I came all the way here from Canada. All right. And everybody in Canada says, you're going to the United States? The United States hates Canada now. I don't feel like that's the case.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
I know, that's what I want to know. So we're still friends. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm telling you, yeah, we're good friends still.
What's your favorite thing about Canada?
I don't know. I've never been, so I really don't know.
If you were to go, where would you want to go?
Where would I want to go? Kitchener, Friday, so we know that we push this series out another game.
Biggest thing I like about Canada is all the lakes and the fisheries and stuff like that. I've always wanted to go fishing, and obviously hockey it came from Canada, so we wouldn't be here right now without Canada itself, and I don't understand why everybody's throwing shade at each other, and I don't see no problems. I think it's all politics at this point. So what are we going to do?
How does it feel to be on a border state to the great country of Canada?
I mean, can't complain about it. We could be bordering other crappy states of the United States, which we already are. So I think we dislike Ohio more than we dislike Canada. What is it you don't like about Ohio?
Ohio State University. I am a Michigan fan. I'm from Flint, born and raised as well. And what is it, like 1,900 and plus days since they beat us in football? So that's a good thing.
Okay, the most important question is, they're going to play two anthems here tonight before the game, O Canada and the Star-Spangled Banner. Will you boo O Canada when it's being sung?
Absolutely not.
Oh, we never have.
No, never have. Never will. Half these kids, or I should say probably 90% of these kids they're from Canada. Like, why not play it? That's where they came from. Where's the problem?
Does it matter to you who wins our election in Canada? Because we're about to elect a new prime minister. Do you care who it is?
Try to stay out of it because it just starts arguments. So politics are politics, and just try to enjoy our lives and do what we can.
I think we are proving right now that Americans and Canadians are absolutely still friends. What do you think?
I agree with that. Yep, I agree with your comment.
And you?
Absolutely.
How do you feel about Canada right now?
I have no problems with Canada.
Did you ever have a problem with Canada?
Nope.
I don't have any problems. I don't know. As long as go Firebirds, but I mean, if Canada wins, it is what it is. At least they played a good game. I really don't pay attention to politics, but I hear things, so.
I just wanted to check in on something here, okay?
Okay.
I came here from Canada, and people said, you're going to the United States? The United States hates Canada now.
No.
But I don't think that's the case. That's not the case?
No.
No. Why not?
It's one person. It's one person, I'll be honest.
Is that one person the president of the United States right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you feel about Canadians?
I got no problem with them. I love Canada. I cover Canada for work.
Do you?
Yeah.
What parts of it?
All of it.
All of it?
From Nova Scotia all the way to British Columbia. I have the whole Canada, everything.
That's amazing.
Yep. But I like going in Ontario because I can watch hockey.
So what parts of Canada have you visited?
Mostly Quebec and Ontario.
Okay.
But we're going to go to New Brunswick next year.
But you don't have any concerns about crossing the border and going to the great country Canada?
Not at all. Not at all. We pay a little bit extra now on electrical. It is what it is. We can't control it. We still have friends in the Great White North. Absolutely.
We still have friends in the Great White North. Absolutely. Now, obviously, there was a targeted crowd, I guess. This is a random sample of hockey fans. A lot of love for hockey. And by the sounds of things, Kitchener represented Canada in that game. But from the folks I spoke to here in Flint at the Dort Financial Center yesterday, there is no less love for Canada. Still got friends here in the Great White North. And hey, I would rather border Canada than some other crappy states like Ohio, said at least two of the Michiganders I spoke to yesterday. So when you're getting into it, and how about the folks just deciding politics? No, I'm going to stay out of that because it just causes arguments. Look, it's important that we have conversations on this show. We don't have to agree on everything that we discuss, but a good reminder, every once in a while, you can park the politics and just enjoy something else, as folks in Flint did as the Firebirds beat the Rangers 2-0 in that game last night. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just a reminder that this is April the 2nd. Yes, April. I believe April is the cruelest month, right? But it's not April Fool's anymore. So we don't need this nonsense that gives us a mix of weather that includes wintry stuff. It's been spring for 2 weeks now. I don't mean to complain and kvetch about well, yes, I do, actually. It's one of my favorite things to do. But we are due. I feel as though we had that 1 week tease of the real nice stuff. And for a couple to a few weeks since then, it feels to me, anyway, like we're at the beginning of winter again, waiting for the dreaded season to come, as opposed to it being at the beginning of spring. So my fingers are crossed along with yours. I would suspect that this can be the last blast of this nastiness, and then we can move on with more spring-like conditions. As we move on with our show today, don't forget, in about 30 minutes' time, we'll check in with the Blacklocks reporter minding Ottawa's business, something we do on a weekly basis now here on the show every Wednesday morning at 10. And in the next half hour, we're going to talk about gravel pits. How many pits is too many pits for one little township in our region? Plus, in Guelph, they've found a pretty interesting reuse for a rehabilitated gravel pit, and we'll dive into that story as well. So that's in your immediate future, right after this update from the 570 News Center. You're listening to and watching the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Well, in just a couple weeks' time, an application will come before the Ontario Land Tribunal to approve what could be the 47th aggregate pit in the township of North Dumfries. The mayor of that township, Sue Foxton, joins the program this morning. Mayor Foxton, good morning.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you very much. How about yourself?
I'm getting there.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. How does it sound when you hear 47 aggregate pits, gravel pits in the township?
We've always been in the top 5. We're number 3 right now, so well aware of it. I've been at this for a long time, for I think about 20 years now. I've been trying to get them to, before they open a new one, I want them to close one. So that you can't, but I wasn't successful. Greed sometimes wins.
So the greed would be on the part of the gravel or the aggregate industry here?
That's correct. They want to scoop up as much land as possible. So an example is a few years back, do you remember when Wilmot got together to fight the opening of a pit?
Yep.
And the thing being was there were 7 pits bought around this pit that had never been opened. They've been sitting with the license for 10 years because they want to scoop up as much land as possible, but they don't want to flood the market because it devalues the value, right? If you've got an over excess of aggregate. So it's a greed type of game. It's very much a capitalistic industry.
So you mentioned you've been at this, Mayor Foxton, for decades, and it's been unsuccessful to date. You can't get anything passed that would force one gravel pit to close before another opens. So what does the mayor of a township like North Dumfries do? Throw up her arms and say, I guess we're going to be, in that top 5 of aggregate extraction?
Never quit. Never, ever quit. Things change all the time. For one thing, the past Minister of Natural Resources, Graydon Smith, did something brilliant. He always said, if you want to make a change, give me the data. Well, he went and got the data, and he found out that there isn't a shortage of aggregate. We don't have to open a ton of pits because we have an adequate amount and there's an adequate amount of resources for the future. He said there's a shortage of a certain type of stone in the Niagara area, but that's the only shortage. That's a major coup. So to say to the industry, you want to gobble up all this other land to create pits, but there's not a shortage. So let's be smart about it. Let's start to say you can't open one unless you close another.
Is there any economic advantage to the township, Mayor Foxton, to have these aggregate pits within your borders?
A lot of people think we're making a fortune because they do give us a payment, right? Well, we used to get about $370,000 a year. And, but they damaged so many roads. 1 kilometer of roads is $1 million now. So 370,000 kilometers, $370,000 doesn't even cover a kilometer of road. Now you take, okay, we're the third largest, all right? So you take Ottawa, the city of Ottawa, and all the surrounding area of Ottawa. So they're about 3,000 kilometers of road, 4,000 kilometers of road. North Dumfries has 178 kilometers of road. The number of trucks on those 4,000 roads, so take those same number of trucks and you put them on 176 kilometers of road. Huge
Recording
impact.
in progress.
And another thing is that we had a road study done because you want to do a road study and check out what roads need to be done when and which ones are the most important. And out of that road study, they studied the aggregate trucks. And they said a double axle truck is the equivalent of 12,000 cars. We have over probably between 200 and 500 aggregate trucks on our roads in a day. So the impact on our roads is phenomenal. And a prime example is Cedar Street, Highway 97. So the region spent a fortune, upgraded it. It was beautiful. In a year, the aggregate trucks had destroyed it, and it's a mess. So, I mean, we can't even keep up with the repairs that the damage does. Another example is we have a road that has, it's a steep incline, and it has an embankment on the right-hand side, and it's a steep drop. So we have no trucks on it because it can't take it. The road will collapse. Well, they're ignoring the no truck rule. So as a municipality, we're legally responsible. So we're going to have to upgrade and shore up that embankment to make sure it doesn't collapse, because if it does, we're liable, even though they're not supposed to be on it and doing the damage. So we're in a rock and a hard place if you don't ignore the pun.
Is it worth challenging these applications at the Ontario Land Tribunal like the 47th application is being challenged right now?
Truthfully, no. You're probably going to lose money because the Land Tribunal can't look at anything but the Planning Act. And everything in aggregate is legislated by the province. So province takes care of dust, noise, travel routes, everything. And so you can't touch them because you have to go and break a provincial law. And to do that, you'd have to get them to change the Aggregate Act. So you're between a rock and a hard place. Again, it would take you years to go do it if you could get the backing. And they have a great lobbying team. They as the aggregate industry. And you can have politicians go into the provincial government totally against what aggregate's doing. And a year later say, well, they're not that bad, Sue. And I'm going, what changed? Well, they palled up with you, of course, and they're nice and they pay these lobbyists a lot of money to do that. But we're making some headway. There's a couple of things I've come up with lately is a minimum distance standard between a residential area and an aggregate pit. And what I want is it to be classified as high industrial because the noise and the dust and everything that it creates falls under that category. So that'll give a greater distance for the residences to be from the pit. And it was being looked at by Graydon Smith. And the other one I've been working on is complaints. Okay, so let's say somebody complains about a pit, the dust, the noise, or whatever. So it goes to the ministry sends a person out. By the time the person gets there, the dust or the noise is gone. But my bylaw can be there in 10 minutes. So I've asked the minister, and an example I had for him was somebody had a complaint about a pit. And while he's taking staff to get there, we find out that pit was closed. So it wasn't the cause of the complaint. My bylaw could have been there and saved the minister and his staff time by going and checking it out first. So The minister thought that was pretty good, and I'm hopeful that we can get that one and the minimum distance standards. I'm also pushing on rehabilitation because, see, they're not rehabilitating. They leave 5 to 10% aggregate in, and they don't rehabilitate it. And they say, well, it's a cushion or a buffer. You can't have it sitting for 25 years and say it's still your cushion or buffer. They have to be rehabilitated. Mike, you were going to say something. I could go on forever. Go ahead, your turn.
No, not at all. I was just thinking of the baby steps forward here. We're not at a point of a moratorium. We're not at a point of closing one before you open another. But some of these small steps, the minimum distance, et cetera, is something that you can hopefully affect change on here.
And I'm excited because I thought Graydon Smith did a great job as the minister. Now Mike Harris is the minister. And Mike, as soon as he was made minister, contacted me and said, let's do a meeting. So I think that's great that the door is open and that I can still communicate with them. And I think we're getting there. It's inch by inch. And I know it's killing people to be so slow, but that's how you change laws.
Mayor Foxton, I appreciate your time on the show this morning. Keep fighting the good fight.
Have a great day, Mike. Take care.
Thanks, you as well. Sue Foxton, the mayor of North Dumfries Township, joining us to talk about gravel pits and how many exist in the township. Will be 47 by the time this latest application is heard at the OLT on April the 14th. Meantime, in a neighboring county, Wellington, they've got a pretty good idea for an adaptive reuse of a former pit. We'll share that story coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I mean, we can't even keep up with the repairs that the damage does. So as a municipality, we're legally responsible. So we're going to have to upgrade and shore up that embankment to make sure it doesn't collapse. Because if it does, we're liable, even though they're not supposed to be on it and doing the damage. So we're in a rock and a hard place.
Pun intended by North Dumfries Township Mayor Sue Foxton, because that township will get its 47th gravel pit once the Ontario Land Tribunal has heard an appeal application on April the 14th, so just a couple of weeks from now. 47 gravel pits in one township in our region. How many is too many? Mayor Foxton certainly thinks they already have too many there. And what happens to these gravel pits once they have reached end of life? Well, let's shift over to Wellington County, neighboring the region of Waterloo, and talk about just such a pit, reaching end of life in 2028. And our next guest, Dr. Joanne Elmira, who's the founder of Royal City Science, has a pretty good idea of what could be done with this pit that's owned by the University of Guelph. Joanne joins the show. Good morning, Joanne.
Good morning, Mike.
What would you like to see happen at this pit owned by the University of Guelph?
I would love for there to be a new science center for Southwestern Ontario, sited on a former gravel pit that is owned by the University of Guelph.
What is it about this site that you find appealing?
There are so many things that I find appealing about this site. I guess first and foremost, it's in the geographic center of the Innovation Corridor, which is the 100 and something kilometer stretch from Toronto to Waterloo, which is the hub of science, technology, engineering, and math research and innovation in this country. So geographically, it makes a ton of sense. The site is right beside the 401. The northern boundary of the site is the 401, which has over 150,000 vehicles passing every single day. So in terms of accessibility, in terms of visibility, it would be an incredible site for a tourism destination. And also, there are currently over 8 million Ontarians within a 90-minute drive of that location, so it would be hugely accessible. When you think about the fact that it's a gravel pit, there has been active extraction happening there for over 30 years now. The university owns the land but leases it to Dufferin Aggregate for extraction. And part of the conditions of that being turned into a gravel pit from agricultural land was requirements for environmental monitoring. So the site has over 35 years of continuous environmental monitoring from when the site was not a pit to today. And to be able to have access to that just incredible amount of data, to turn that into part of the story of the Science Center and make that part of the learning experience for all of the visitors, the site would be a living laboratory for the visitors who are coming, and something will be different with every single visit. So more than that reasons, but those are kind of the big ones for why we think this would be a really great opportunity.
There's no question that would be a great connection to the work you do and the service that is provided through a science center. What else, Joanne, would a new science center offer to not just Guelph and Wellington County, but surrounding areas that you've already described?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the thing that we're really excited about is I think the idea of having multiple science centers around the province, and everyone has kind of their own sort of niche that they bring to the collective. So when you think about Science North and Sudbury, very much with a general theme of geology that runs throughout their exhibit space and all of the programming they do, we would be looking at focusing on environmental sciences for sure, and agriculture and technology associated with that, given who we are here in Guelph and Wellington County. And the idea of there being almost like a network of science centers throughout the province where everyone kind of has their own focus, creates their own programming, and then it could rotate through and bring, Science North programming down to Southern Ontario, and, potentially cycle through having programming all over the place. I think we also are very much focused on the work we've done with the architects and the visioning exercise is very much focused on sustainable development and being a very much a learning experience or teaching experience for designing sustainably, operating, net zero energy, looking at net zero carbon in the construction, and making that also a focal point of the visitor's experience when they visit, and learn more about what we can do about climate change and climate mitigation.
I know that as attractive as this site is, and you've done such a great job describing what would make it such an ideal site, really, for the new science center, but it's not yet a done deal, so to speak. What steps might be coming next, Joanne, in this process?
Right. Yeah, great question. So last summer, we completed our visioning exercise with funds from the Ministry of Tourism and Wellington Waterloo Community Futures. So if folks go to our website, they can see all of the images and video that was created, imagining what this might look like on the Mill Creek Pit site as an example. And then the next step, we just got funding from RTO4, which is the Regional Tourism Organization 4 that supports tourism initiatives in this area, as well as the Wellington County Economic Development team. They are giving us funds to do the financial aspects of it. So the business plan, the organizational, operational plan, some needs analysis, market assessment, reaching out to community, all of that stuff. We're hoping to get that rolling in the next probably few weeks, and that'll take us into the summer when we'll wrap that up, and then we'll have a much better sense of the financial aspects of it as well.
I've been to Science North. I've been to the former Science Center in Toronto. How would I love to have something closer to home? So great work on this. I can tell how excited you are too, which is great. Keep it up. And really, thanks for making time for the show this morning.
Oh, thanks so much, Mike. It was great chatting.
Joanne Elmira, the founder of Royal City Science, joining us on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Had a rumble of thunder roll through here in Flint a few minutes ago. Yeah, we're getting some weather, and rather wicked, I might add. Maybe that rumble of thunder came all the way from the other side of the border in Canada, where the federal Liberals have lost 3 candidates in the last 10 days due to foreign interference concerns. We'll talk about that and more as we mind Ottawa's business with the Blacklocks reporter coming up after this update from the 570 News Center. Also wanted to remind you that while we are here in Flint getting ready for Game 4 of the first round playoff series with the Firebirds, you will, of course, hear that right here on 570 News Radio tomorrow night. Pre-game coverage will get underway at 6:30, and we know that there will be a Game 5 back in Kitchener on Friday night. Tickets for that going on sale in moments, 10 o'clock this morning. Ticket sales will open at kwtickets.com. But that's the Rangers playoff series. I just wanted to let you know, by way of reminder, your KW Titans, our basketball team, also in the playoffs, and they open those playoffs on home court tonight at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. So while you're getting set for the next Rangers game on the radio or the next Rangers game at the Odd on Friday, check out the Titans as they open their playoffs tonight at the Memorial Auditorium. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Wednesday mornings at this time, we check in with the folks who are minding Ottawa's business. That means the folks at the Blacklocks Reporter. The managing editor there is Tom Korski, who joins the program for a chat. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
I think we have to start with Paul Chang, much maligned now former candidate for the Liberals, but he had to go, right?
They didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
It took a while, but it was obvious. But he resigned only because it's an election period. You know, I don't think I'm being unfair in stating my cabinet had to be dragged kicking and screaming to convene a commission on foreign interference, which famously issued a report in January, final report, hearings all last year. And what they uncovered was really blood-curdling. And the implication was not that former Sergeant Chang was a stooge for the Chinese consulate in Toronto. The implication was that they were it was all kind of collegial. And this is the problem. They're your friends, Mike. This was what came out in the commission. It's always about friends. It's about associations. It starts off kind of soft and friendly-like. And then it ends with, as was documented in the last two election campaigns, slander. It ends in attempts at voter manipulation. Some of this is illegal under the Elections Act. These are felonies. They become serious crimes. Chang didn't have a choice but to go. But there's a serious problem in this country, and Parliament has been very, very slow to get on it.
This is something I wanted to take a step further, because you talked about this taking too long, Tom, and I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And I can't help but wonder, and I'd love your perspective, as to whether or not this gives us any level of comfort about the distance between Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau, because under Trudeau, the Liberals also seem to be slow to act, if ambivalent, towards foreign interference.
Oh, in one case, famously, Trudeau testified under oath that he couldn't be bothered reading his security briefs. They're called briefs for a reason. They run to 6 to 9 pages. I've read 1,000 of them through access to information. If you have a really short attention span, you just have to read the first paragraph and the last. Couldn't be bothered, he said. One of those briefs was from the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. It described mainly Chinese interference in federal politics as an existential crisis, quote, end of quote. Couldn't be bothered reading the memo. Carney could not possibly have any choice but to. That's a pretty low bar. He passed that standard. But the real difference, I think, is you're discussing it, media talking about it, people talking about it. This is the point. Get it out there, get the people excited, start talking about it. That's the bulwark against foreign interference, is to have everyone be aware of it all the time, which is exactly what the judge at the commission said. Turn the lights on this, make it a bright, hot light, and get everyone excited because it's happening and people should know.
All right. From the candidates that Mark Carney has lost under the Liberals to turning our attention to the NDP, is there an anti-Semite in Jagmeet Singh's midst, Tom?
Well, here's a candidate in Mississauga, Aaron Mills, that has posted my 2 cents anti-Semitic conspiracy theories on Instagram and has an association with a community organization in Mississauga. It's called Palestine House. Their Twitter feed is extremely unpleasant, and I mean really vulgar stuff. In the case of the Instagram conspiracy theories, this is a candidate who muses about how powerful Jews control the government of Canada and we have to take democracy back. Mike, many, many years ago, I was an Alberta legislature reporter. That was during the Jim Keegstra days. There will be many people who forget this. Anyone can Google it. Keegstra, Keegstra. It was an anti-Semitic scandal. It tore that community apart. I thought we would never see it normalized. Forgive me. That has happened now with the NDP leadership. They have a high tolerance for the crudest, most vile anti-Jewish sentiments that you will ever see in public, and I don't know why.
I remember the Keegstra story,
shocking.
and but this is one of the you nailed it, Tom. I mean, we would hope to never have such an occurrence again, and here we are.
And this candidate that they have in Mississauga, Aaron Mills, his surname is Mustafa. This is a learned guy. He was born in Canada. His parents are Palestinian. I'm going by his official comments in party biography. He's an insurance analyst. This is an educated man. Jim Keegstra was a small-town high school teacher and garage mechanic in a little town called Eckville, and then Stettler. I mean, no one, I've been to Eckville. Just about no one has heard of Eckville. And people at the time said, oh, well, there you go. That's those hillbillies in south central Alberta. Oh, really? Oh, really? Not anymore. Now it has been normalized to a degree. It's shocking.
All right, I'll need your help figuring this one out or understanding this one. But we're now at a point, Tom, where we're paying cash and tens of thousands of dollars in cash for election coverage. What's at play here?
Very definition, once again, much is my opinion, Mike, of media corruption. There is a federally sponsored group called the Missioner Awards Foundation. They give out prizes every year for snappy journalism, typically newspapers. And they decided to get in the cash for coverage game. This literally just happened in the last 20 minutes. They're offering, if you send in an application, they'll give you $35,000 to cover your expenses to cover the campaign over the next 26 days. $35,000 to cover your expenses. What they didn't mention was that all the applications will be vetted by a judges panel. The president of the judges panel is a former Winnipeg Free Press editor who enthusiastically praised the Liberals in her work in the past, said only the Liberal Party can stand up against, I'm quoting her, the bullies in the Conservative Party. This is who's vetting the applications. Years ago, so long ago, Mike, I was a reporter in northern China, and there would be news conferences where they would hand out little packets, little envelopes with a few renminbi in them, a few Chinese banknotes, just to make sure all the reporters made this a good news story. You know the difference between that and what's happening now? They did it openly in the People's Republic. That's the only difference. In Canada, it's a secret.
Okay. In Canada, it's no secret that there are rules around election advertising and who can even be involved in that. Is there any circumvention of those rules happening?
There was by the Business Development Bank, and they should know better. They stopped it after we made some contacts with them. They have been running promotions through the campaign. They've now stopped. They were doing it on television and YouTube. People would be interested. The takeaway here is this is not a joke. The Treasury Board directive came out just after the election was called. What do they say? The public service serves you and will carry on routine operations. Literally no advertising is permitted outside of job postings, weather warnings, legal notices. If they're selling Crown land, you put a little ad in the newspaper, that's it. And what is the implication, by the way, is it's tens of millions of dollars these federal agencies spend on ads. Well, why can't you advertise during an election campaign? If you're a BDC, a bank manager at the Crown Bank, you'd say, well, what's the harm? During the election period, it is especially important, I'm reading, to avoid anything that would call into question the political impartiality of the public service, end of quote. That's your money. It's not their money. And some of the people who pay for that may have different political opinions than the managers whose future employment depends on the outcome of the election. It's not a joke.
Yeah, you read my mind on that part. And this is what really chafes me with things like this in particular, because we know that the public service and how bloated it became under Justin Trudeau is very much under the microscope as we move into perhaps a new era of austerity in Ottawa.
Oh, my favorite statistic. Do you know how many federal managers there are? They're called executive group. This is six-figure salaries on the bottom rung. On the top rung, you get a chauffeur and a car. There's 10,060 federal managers. The payroll cost has literally gone up by $1 billion in the last 10 years. You try to think, who has 10,000 executives? Would that be not Google, surely, not Canadian Pacific Railway? I'm thinking the Russian Army. Would they have 10,000 executives? But that's how many there are in the government of Canada.
Incredible. Tom, as always, appreciate your time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mike.
Tom Korski, managing editor with the Blacklocks Reporter. And forgive me, I jumped a moment ago. I don't know how well that came through on the microphone here in my hotel room, but that was a clap of thunder from Flint. As Tom, you might say, to coin a phrase, brought some thunder. He minds Ottawa's business with the Blacklocks Reporter and joins us every Wednesday morning at 10 here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
During the election period, it is especially important, I'm reading, to avoid anything that would call into question the political impartiality of the public service. End of quote. That's your money. It's not their money. And some of the people who pay for that may have different political opinions than the managers whose future employment depends on the outcome of the election. It's not a joke.
Tom Korski, managing editor with the Blacklocks Reporter, joins us every Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock, to keep our ears and eyes on Ottawa's business. Minding Ottawa's business is what the Blacklocks Reporter does, and Tom has graciously agreed to spend some time with us on a weekly basis. And, you know, that could not have been a better clip from the interview pulled by Devin Robertson, our guy, not only on the other side of the glass, but on the other side of the border, back home at the boardwalk today. But it ties into something else I wanted to talk about. And look, the election advertising and an agency that employs people working as public servants is one thing. And we know the rules around that. And the Business Development Bank of Canada knows the rules around that. But it gets to the public service, and you know I've been clear on this for quite some time. The growth of the federal public service by nearly 40% under Justin Trudeau, and the cost of that to Canadians has been something that's been particularly vexing to me in the last little while, because what we end up with, and look, I don't want to deny anybody their good living. I hope we all can make a good living in this life so that we can maybe have some money left over at the end of it to enjoy some quieter time in our golden years. But the reality is, within the public service, government jobs tend to, it used to be as much as 30% higher than private sector. We're now operating around 15%, but the benefits packages are far superior to what most of us get in the private sector. And those jobs that pay better and have better benefits and better retirement opportunities are paid for by the rest of us who are out there working for less money and not the same benefits. And I find that to be a really difficult paradox here, right? As we go out there and hustle to make our good living and hope to save some for retirement, we are funding people whose jobs pay better than ours and who have far superior benefits to ours. So the work that we do to pay the taxes to help other people have a better standard of living, there's something not quite right there, particularly when that public service grows to the extent it has grown over these last many years under the federal Liberal government. I say that clip could not have been chosen any better because it ties into something I had wanted to talk about. And that is the Sunshine List. The annual Sunshine List has been released. And look, I'm going to be honest about this as well. In the near 30 years or so that the Sunshine List has been made public, this is a list of the public sector employees in Ontario who make more than $100,000 a year. $100,000 a year ain't what it used to be, is it? And I know for many of us, we still aspire to such a six-figure income, starting with a 1 there, right? But really, $100,000 today is not the same as it was in 1990. What was it, 4 or 5, whatever it was when we started the Sunshine List. Either way, I think the list, if we were going to continue doing it, should be adjusted for inflation. And frankly, I'm not even sure that the list is all that helpful as we get a little bit of salary envy and gaze longingly at the salaries being earned by people in the public sector and compare them to our own. I don't know. But one thing from this year's Sunshine List did stand out. Obviously, when the list comes out every year, we take a look at those people in our community who are on it. And the leader this year is the president of Conestoga College, who, if you have not heard, John Tibbetts, was paid last year more than $636,000. $636,000 to lead Conestoga College as its president. Again, I'm not qualified to be a college president. I'm not going to say one way or another the kind of job that John Tibbetts is doing, although I think we know that the growth at Conestoga College has been aggressive to the point of maybe having negative impacts in the community when it comes to student housing and the influx of students who can't find that housing and can't find adequate work, et cetera, et cetera. But $636,000 as an annual salary for a college president. Here's what really stood out to me. That was a 29% increase over the year before. I would like to sign up for the job, please, that gets me a 29% salary increase. But wait, there's more, because you know how much I love numbers, right? Based on that salary of more than $636,000, Tibbetts was just under $500,000 in 2023. So a 29% increase on that salary is an increase of $141,000. Like, first of all, I want the job that gets me the 29% annual increase. Secondly, I would love it if the 29% increase was more than $140,000, which is well more. The increase is well more than many of us make in a year. And that was just the increase for John Tibbetts. Good work if you can get it. The Sunshine List out for another year. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Oh my goodness, I'm less than 30 seconds away from the update in the 570 News Center, but Steve's on the line. He says he's got a quick comment about the Sunshine List. Steve, I'll take you at your word. I got 15 seconds. Go ahead.
I'll make it quick. So yeah, as long as the average Joe doesn't receive much of a pay raise like they have over the last decade, I'd say keep it $100,000 so that everyone else can see all the people on that Sunshine List who are mostly paid from the public purse or in a job where they're supposed to be managing the public purse. I say keep it at $100,000, and we can see the disparity growing and growing and growing.
All right, so you've got to run on that point. And yes, they are all paid by the public purse. That's the point of the Sunshine List. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. All right, let me see here. The website says, we hope to see you at the next festival on Saturday, April the 5th, 2025. Well, hang on a second. That is this Saturday. And the festival, of course, is one of the signature festivals in our community, the Elmira Maple Syrup Festival. And joining us to talk more about it this morning is Steve Dressing, who's a committee member and Pioneer Taffy demonstration lead. Oh, I'm getting into that with the festival. Steve, thanks for making time for the show. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolute pleasure, my friend. Absolute pleasure. I got to know more about this because I ask in advance, you know, what the title is or the role you have with the festival committee. And you say Pioneer Taffy demonstration lead. I need to know more about this, Steve, because it sounds amazing.
Absolutely. Well, it's one of our signature events at the festival every year. We do the Pioneer Taffy demonstration. It's actually our 60th year of the event, where you can come see us boil the syrup right in front of you and pour it over the snow. and twirl you a fresh taffy on a stick for just $2. You got to come check it out. It's the heart of the festival for sure. Cannot be missed.
Absolutely amazing. Now, is it one of those things where when you are the demonstration lead, Steve, it might be like, one for me, one for you, one for how much taffy do you consume in one day?
I would rather not say. I think my waistline can reflect that the day or two after, though. That's absolutely for sure. But, there's plenty to go around, so it should be fine.
That's fantastic. Good for you. Let's talk about this Saturday as you're gearing up. You mentioned 60 years strong now is this festival. What do we have planned for Saturday? What do folks need to know?
Yeah, so there's a ton of amazing family-friendly events. So we do have a family fun area, so it's great for the whole family to come on. We have pony rides, rock climbing wall, face painting, and then tons of great farm equipment for the kids to check out. Every year we're known for our pancake breakfast as well, starting at 7 until 2, or while supplies last. So absolutely come check that out as well. It's a big hit every year. And then, we have tons of amazing local vendors lining the downtown. So come check it out, shop local, support local businesses, and really take part of this great community event. So there's tons of fantastic things to see. We also have our craft and toy show and our collectible show over at the Woolwich Memorial Center as well for our toy enthusiasts to check out as well, and even more vendors over there. So definitely quite a few things, something for everybody.
I know, Steve, that this festival attracts tens of thousands of people every year. It's one that we mark on our calendars. The town of Elmira doubles or triples in size because of the number of visitors that come in just for that day. And this is not something that you can plan overnight for sure. How much work does the committee do to get us ready for this coming Saturday?
Yeah, it's actually the largest single-day maple syrup festival in the world. We're expecting over 80,000 guests on Saturday, and the work is endless. There's a great team of committee members, volunteers who spend months planning and organizing and putting this all together, and really without all of their hard work and dedication and volunteer time, we wouldn't be able to do this. But the planning really starts right after the festival, so we're nonstop for sure.
How satisfying is it for you and the other committee members, Steve, to really be working on the event, the signature event that puts Elmira on the map every year?
You know what? It's a great source of pride for everybody on the committee and the town as well. We are a non-for-profit, and all the proceeds that we have do end up going back into the community and through various forms of charitable donation. So that's really what was the founding principles of the festival, and it's something that we remain committed to. So every dollar you come and you spend, so many of them are going to be going back into the community that we all take part in. So it's really special in that way. So we definitely take a lot of pride in that.
Some of those 80,000 who will be showing up this Saturday for the annual festival will be coming for the first time, and a buddy of mine likes to point out, hey, hop on the historic railway and take that into the area so you can save with driving in and parking. Do you have any tips for folks that might be coming for the first time, the best way to navigate this? Because I know it gets pretty busy.
It does, absolutely. So you can come up north of the expressway, and, that can be a little bit busy for sure. We do recommend looking at some of the alternate routes, such as coming, from the Guelph side down to Church Street there and in through the back, where you can park on that side as well. But there is lots of parking, in the Industrial Avenue by Elmira Pet Products. There'll be tons of signage to get you where you need to go. But it's definitely worth, parking. It's just $5 per car for cash to park. And then we can take a wagon and get you downtown as well. So it's all part of the experience. But definitely plan yourself lots of time to get in. But we promise that it will be worth it for you.
What kind of a day is it for you and the other volunteers? I mean, I'm sure it starts early and ends rather late.
Yeah, absolutely. We have people there setting up all the vendors on the mall overnight as well. Some of the volunteers on the committee, they don't even go to bed till 9, 10 a.m. the day of the festival when we're all out there, serving all the people coming through town. So it gets started early. We're actually going to be setting up 7 a.m. on Friday, getting the town ready. And then, we're going to be cleaning up everything Sunday afternoon and Sunday morning as well. So there's tons of work to be done. And then not to mention all the other cleanup and things that go on the week after. So there is a lot that goes into this. But, we pull it off with all the fantastic volunteers and help we get. The community is fantastic in their support of the event as well. We have tons of amazing sponsors as well, like, Vacu Trucks, Gecko website, Elmira Pet Products, and without their help and their support as well, that wouldn't really be able to pull this amazing event off.
Is there a place folks can go, Steve, to get more information and maybe plan out their visit on Saturday?
Yes, absolutely. You can check out the website at elmiramapleSyrupFestival.com. All of the details will be there for you. Please check that out. And, we are still looking for plenty of volunteers on that note as well. And you can fill out a volunteer intake form there, where if you want to get involved in the festival, we would love to have you. So please check us out at elmiramapleSyrupFestival.com or find us on Instagram and all our socials as well for more details and tons of great information there.
Fantastic. We're looking forward to another great Saturday in Elmira for the annual festival. Kudos to you, Steve, and the rest of the volunteers for making this happen for us. Thanks for doing that, and we'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Thanks so much. We're looking forward to having you. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Steve Dressing is a committee member and Pioneer Taffy demonstration lead. Like, where do I sign up for that volunteer position? Please and thank you. The annual Elmira Maple Syrup Festival is this Saturday, the 5th. You can visit elmiramapleSyrupFestival.com, help plan your visit, get all kinds of information, and maybe even sign up as a volunteer, because many hands make light work, and there is a lot of work to be done, as Elmira will welcome 80,000 visitors this Saturday for the festival. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, this is what happens when I'm working on the road from my hotel room in Flint. You leave the door open a crack, and all of a sudden, a moose walks through it. Mike the Moose Reeves, coach operator for the Kitchener Rangers with Great Canadian Coach Lines, joins me in the remote studios. Moosey, good morning.
Mr. Farwell, good morning to you too, on this rainy, thundery morning in Flint.
I'll tell you what, it is some kind of wicked weather. Good thing we don't have to travel too far today.
Just to the rink and to dinner tonight.
But travel for you this year, it's posed a challenge, but you have met that challenge head on. The season that we just finished with this hockey club, Moosey, has got to be the worst you've seen for weather.
In 8 years with the Rangers, this has been the worst. There was a stretch after the new year to the Sioux was bad. Kingston, Ottawa was bad, very bad. But we're lucky. You can pull the rest of these guys driving, and we've got it easy. Talk to the guy from the Sioux. Talk to the guy from Ottawa. Talk to the guy from Erie. The furthest points, you talk to them, Windsor, Sarnia, you talk to those guys. We've got it easy.
We do have it easy. But speaking of Kingston, you make me think of something. When we were on that trip, first of all, oh my goodness, you remember Ottawa? You could barely get around with all the snow up there this year.
Kingston was good, but that was the warning before we got to Ottawa.
Yeah.
And we got to Ottawa and everything went to kaput. They don't plow there. They're allergic to plowing in Ottawa. I don't know what it is. The streets get narrower and narrower, and then we couldn't get out, and we had to stay. There's nowhere to park by the hotel. The Delta Hotel downtown is fabulous, but they have no bus parking. So we had to wait, and then 3 hours on the Monday morning to go to Peterborough to play in the afternoon. But the weather was better.
You know why they're allergic to plowing in Ottawa? It's your buddy Trudeau.
Well, we don't have a Trudeau anymore, but you're talking to the wrong guy about that. I think that guy Jordan should be in here, and you could talk to him.
One of these days, we're going to get the entire Rangers coaching staff, the entire staff. I will have a political roundtable with them.
That won't last long.
You actually almost get to moderate that roundtable from your seat in the driver's seat of the bus. Boy, oh boy, the entertainment you get when those coaches start getting into politics.
1 minute after we leave, and you hear it too, UC is up Jordan's behind, and it is funny, and it's unmerciful. It just goes and goes and goes. And you got to have a bit with UC.
You do?
You do.
I
do have to have a bit with UC and not talk hockey, just talk about politics and all that. Yeah.
All right. I got myself all distracted there. What I wanted to start with, and I thought of Ottawa because it's part of the Kingston trip. It was in Kingston this season, Mike, where I think you, as a bus driver in this league, reached legendary status, not just how you got your nickname. That was a long time ago. This year in Kingston, you had a full, 10-minute intermission interview.
I believe I was told 8.
Okay,
but
8. It felt like 80.
We're not going to dicker.
Right.
But I didn't set that up. I don't know who set that up. I have a feeling you had something to do with that. But that being said, when we got there the day before, Nick Jr. had said to me, "Oh, by the way, they're going to interview tomorrow." I said, "About what? And who's going to interview them at the game?" So the young lady, between the first and second admission, we had a wonderful conversation, and I only thought it was going to be to Kingston area. I didn't know it was going back home. As soon as I got up, the phone was looking. I said there was pictures of the screen, and so yeah. But I talked to her about. Well, she said to me that they want to do something different. They want bus drivers. I had the first bus driver. She said yes. Well, why don't you have the local guy here, the Kingston guy, who I'd read an article about a month before that, and I'd met him at the Odd in the media room when they played, and 35 years or so he's been driving them. Like, holy man. And the stories, like, I don't have stories.
Okay, hang on.
We have a couple of stories, but that's all.
You have the story that got you your nickname many years ago between North Bay and Sudbury.
Yeah, well, that was the first year. We left North Bay. We were driving over to Sudbury. 2 moose come out in front of us beside each other. It's like, clonk, 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 not moving very fast. Hit the brakes. Coolers came flying. Danny had seen them first, Danny Leibold, who used to sit behind me, but he doesn't anymore. He doesn't even sit with us at all anymore. What the heck?
Maybe he doesn't trust your driving.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he saw them first before I saw them, and they weren't moving very fast. I honked. It was like a cartoon. The 2 of them all of a sudden at the same time turned around and looked at me. One went one way, one went that way. The one on the right thought we were going to hit. We missed them, and that was it.
You had to slalom
and then
bus
about another 20 minutes, I think there was a fox that ran out, if I remember. There was a fox that ran out in front of me too. But
that was year 1. That's how you get the nickname the Moose, because you dodged those moose, the 2 of them, kept us all safe, got us to Sudbury. I think that in Kingston, they wanted to talk to you during intermission as a bus driver, because you have become the star of an online series called Moose Tracks.
Yeah, well, that to you, you're the one who suggested to me. We started. Unfortunately, we've kind of fell down on it.
We got to get going here,
and we're getting toward the end of the year. But hopefully, as we go through maybe the summer, we'll have the odd one where we can. But we'll try it like tomorrow night before the game. We'll have to do something either at the bus or upstairs there or wherever at the rink, and hopefully for a better outcome tomorrow night also.
Absolutely.
But the Moose Track thing. Yeah, there's been I've had people talk to me about it. I've run into people in public,
in Foodland and Air,
but at the Sobeys in the Cambridge, the guy was talking to me and he said, "Oh, you're the Moose." He said, so we found one thing went to another, and I says, "Okay," but yeah.
All right, it's a shameless plug here, but there is a YouTube channel called the OHL Podcast, which is the podcast that I host, and we do little short 60-second or so videos with Mikey called Moose Tracks, little stories from the road, and Mike's great personality shines through. So you can check it out on YouTube at the OHL Podcast. And hey, you can be a subscriber there too. You'll love the content for sure. Speaking of the game, you said hopefully a better outcome tomorrow night for the Kitchener Rangers. Mike, I thought you were going to wear a hole in the floor of press row last night. You were pacing so much.
It's a great little spot up on that press row catwalk thing there, and you're so close to the ice.
You are.
Like, it's a great view, and so I'm halfway down, and I go see Jordy and Merle's down at the one end, and I come back and see yous, and I talk to Paul, and I tell him, "Well, what do you think about this?" And "Oh, that looked bad, or this or that." And like, we played great in the first 2 periods, and we couldn't score, and we let them hang around, and it was horrible. And then I didn't see the third period. Had to go to the bus, wait for food, and then of course then all bad things happened. So they scored and scored again. So that's all right. We'll get them tomorrow night, and then hopefully we'll finish it Friday night.
How much
we hope
does this team's success mean to you?
Oh, this is I've been here 8 years, like I say, and this I never had kids. I have a wonderful stepson, daughter-in-law, 2 wonderful grandkids. But this is a different type of family, and they've been good to me. it'd be nice to see them win. While I'm still doing this, whenever that ends, we don't know, but hopefully, yeah. I live and breathe this team. Sometimes I take losses harder than the kids do. So I was just saying to Paul there, and we were talking to the Swicks downstairs, their parents, and Trent got on the bus last night after, and he walked by me, and he turned around. And he said, "Mike," he says, "sorry, we lost." And I said, "Don't apologize to me. We'll give him tomorrow night." But he felt bad for me, so great kids, great kids, great staff, great. You and Paul, you guys are top of the line. So
you are one of a kind, Moosey. Thanks for coming on the big show today.
Okay, guys, go Rangers. We'll see you tomorrow night and on Friday night. Okay, good luck.
You're gonna hang out in the broadcast booth with us back home on Friday?
Oh, wouldn't miss that.
All right, Mike the Moose Reeves joins us on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. Check out Moose Tracks on YouTube at the OHL Podcast. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Thank you, Rob, for the email to Mike at 570news.com. Best bussy in the league, Mike the Moose Reeves. I agree with that, Rob. Face for TV. That's what Rob says. Sure. Did you see, if you were watching on Rogers TV Cable 20, you would have seen that Moose is wearing the classic Hartford Whalers ball cap, too. Love it. And I'm glad we could spend some time with Moosey here on the show, as we spend so much time with him during Kitchener Rangers seasons, as he gets us from place to place safely every time. All right, time to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then it's a new Blue Jays season, which means another season of Blue Jay Hunter here on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
The Whiz Kids had won it, Bobby Thompson had done it, and Yogi read the comics all the while. Rock and roll was being born, marijuana we would scorn. So down on the corner the national pastime went on trial. We're talking baseball, Klazuski, Campanella, talking baseball. The man and Bobby Fella, the Scooter, the Barber and the Nuke. They knew them all from Boston to Dubuque, especially Willie, Mickey, and the Duke.
Oh, do I love me some baseball. But I got to be honest. I got to be honest with you. I don't know how much I love this current edition of the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm just being honest about that. But a new season is underway, and that means our good buddy Ian Hunter, a.k.a. the Blue Jay Hunter, joins us to talk some Blue Jays baseball. Huntsy, a good morning to you, sir. I cannot hear Ian. Ian, are you there?
Oh, hello. Let's try that.
Oh, let's try that. And that sounds very good. It's very strange that you are in my studio and I am not, but thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. Yeah, thank you. I know it's weird. I'm holding down the fort here, so making sure nobody turns the temperature up too high on you.
Thank you for that. I know we're in good hands back at the Boardwalk in Kitchener. Okay, there's quite a bit to talk about, and I do want to get your perspective on these goofy torpedo bats that have become a thing in baseball. But before that, let's get Blue Jay specific here. And I meant it at the top. I'm not sure, Ian, how I feel about this year's edition of the Toronto Blue Jays, particularly now that Max Scherzer is already on the DL, which I don't know. I didn't love the offseason for the team, okay? Just to be honest with you. Can you make the case for me that this offseason that the Blue Jays had will lead to success on the field this season?
Well, yeah, obviously that one big signing, the Max Scherzer thing, that's a little scary to me. Yesterday he had a cortisone shot in his thumb, and apparently things are looking good. He may be throwing a bullpen session this weekend in Citi Field, but this thumb issue was also related to a nerve issue he dealt with last season with the Texas Rangers. So when I heard that he was dealing with this in spring training, I thought, there's no way he's going to be able to pitch in 5 days. And lo and behold, he started on Saturday, but he was pulled after only a few innings. So yeah, that's a little scary. I don't know if we're going to see him maybe until May or mid-May. Aside from that, though, I kind of actually think they had a pretty decent offseason. You know, they rebuilt the bullpen. They brought back Jimmy Garcia. They signed Jeff Hoffman. Brought in some protection for the lineup with Anthony Santander. So far, they've made the best trade in MLB history by bringing in Andres Jimenez, and I'm saying that tongue in cheek, of course. But yeah, it's definitely a much different looking team this year so far. You know, yesterday was kind of the perfect example. 12 singles, not a single extra base hit. 2 sacrifice bunts and a bunt single. Really kind of atypical from what we've seen from this team from the last couple of years, but I kind of like it. I like that they're diversifying things, and you know, if you can't get the long ball, slap down a single and score some runs.
So what you're telling me is this Blue Jays team could win playing small ball, which I'm 100% behind. I miss small ball, Ian.
Yeah, absolutely. Because think about it, they've won their games on the backs not of their top dogs, not with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or Anthony Santander. It's been with their best hitters so far have been their 4, 5, 6 guys: Andres Jimenez, George Springer, Alejandro Kirk, and then Bo Bichette. Those have been the big producers. I don't think that's going to happen all season. Eventually, we're going to see Vlad and Santander hit a home run, but for now, it looks like a much more balanced lineup entering this season than it did last year, for sure.
All right. I did appreciate the acquisition of Santander. Look, it's no Juan Soto, it's no Shohei Ohtani, but those ships both sailed, and I'm not sure how much the Blue Jays were really in on it. The important thing was to get some protection for Vladdy in the lineup. Great. I wasn't sure about the health of Max Scherzer, or quite frankly, the price point for a guy that's 40 years old, which is why I'm grumpy about that. But the other thing, obviously, is the inability to get a deal done with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. How much should we be concerned about that in a walk year for Vladdy?
Well, things have changed over the last few weeks. We heard Blue Jays president Mark Shapiro come out and say, I think we're going to get a deal done. And if we know anything from Mark Shapiro during his Blue Jays tenure, he's never really absolute about anything, right? Like it's kind of a GM and a president's job to be vague whenever asked about the future of players. And to me, it feels like, I don't know if it's going to get done in season or the All-Star break or at the end of the season or in free agency, but I don't know. I'm about 75% confident that I think that Vlad will stay. It just feels like the two, they're gaming the system right now, obviously. Vladdy's come out and leaked the numbers to the media, and the Blue Jays have responded. I think a deal does get done. I'm not so much worried as I was, the day when Vlad had his self-imposed deadline for contract negotiations. That's it's a soft deadline. That's like something that you put in place just to motivate a team to kind of help you put money on the table. My gut tells me I think something will get done, Mike. I don't think Vladdy walks this year.
All right. You're bullish on this ball club, Huntsy. You are absolutely bullish on the Blue Jays right now. Is this the euphoria of an early season 3-game winning streak talking?
I kind of felt that way going into opening day, to be honest. Just the performances of several of their key players that they felt like they needed bounce back seasons. Bo Bichette among them, Alejandro Kirk, and so far, the one thing where have been eating my words so far, and I realize it's early, but the Andres Jimenez thing, I just kind of assumed he came in as a glove first guy, Gold Glove second baseman, one of the best defensive infielders in baseball. And, he had a career year a few years ago with the Guardians, but I thought if he contributes anything with the bat this season, it's a bonus. And so far, he leads the Jays in home runs. I think last year, he didn't have his third home run of the season until about midway through May, and he's already got his third homer of the season. So I don't know if it's going to be like that the entire year, but yeah, any contribution you get from him is a bonus. And the defense, you expect it to be elite, but if there's anything in the bat, like if you get maybe 20 home runs from this guy, that is a huge boost to this team.
Ian Hunter is the Blue Jay Hunter, and beginning today, he will join us weekly, Wednesday mornings at 11 a.m. to talk some Blue Jays baseball. We'll take a break, come back with your calls and the torpedo bat conversation as well. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, get used to it. Wednesday morning, 11 a.m., the Blue Jay Hunter, Ian Hunter, our colleague at Rogers Kitchener Radio and 570 News Radio, will be joining us to talk Blue Jays baseball. As you know, the parent company of this radio station, Rogers, owns the Blue Jays. And oh yeah, by the way, we, the Royal We, own the National Hockey League for another dozen years too, in that $11 billion deal announced this morning. Lots going on sports-wise with this company and here on the show, because why not talk Blue Jays baseball? The Blue Jays are Canada's team. Let's get to the phones and hear from you and get Ian's perspective on your Blue Jay thoughts. We'll start with Bob this morning. Bob, good morning. You're on with Blue Jay Hunter.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Ian.
Good morning.
What do you think that Guerrero's really worth? I think he's a really good player, but I don't think he's a superstar.
Yeah, see,
that's an interesting one.
Yeah, really what's changed in the last couple of years is the bidding spree for Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto. Typically, these guys, first baseman, I would never say is worth $400-500 million, but the game has obviously changed. So I think when it comes down to it, the Vladdy number is probably, the contract's probably going to be around $550 million. If I had to take a guess, somewhere in between the $500 and $600 million realm. I can't imagine it going beyond $600 million, which is just, it's so tough to kind of wrap your head around that kind of money and that kind of term. You're probably looking at $13, $14, $15 million. But to be honest, guys like Vladdy don't grow on trees. The Blue Jays could spend the next 20, 25 years trying to draft and develop a guy like that, and it might never happen. So I think they're kind of maybe seeing the fact that, life without Vladdy is going to look pretty grim over the next little while. So they should probably pony up and pay that contract.
Yeah, but I don't think it's worth, well, that's not my money, but like I said, I don't think it's worth Judge type money, and I don't think it's worth Soto money.
No, definitely not. Like, it's, at least with Soto, you're getting value from a defensive position in the outfield, albeit not one of the best defensive outfielders. But first base is typically where guys go later in their careers, right? When they can't play a position. So, yeah, it's just all logic is kind of thrown out the window, which I think maybe is why, because the Blue Jays front office is a very process-oriented team. I mean, most front offices are, but really, they're not. It's not like Steve Cohen with the Mets, where you see a guy, you want a guy, and you're willing to pay whatever it is. I think the Blue Jays have a walk-away price, and they obviously haven't met it, but I think the gap is not as big as maybe it's being portrayed as.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, absolutely.
How much trouble do you think the Yankees are in without Cole?
The Yankees always seem to find a way. Every year I go into the season thinking these guys they're getting old. They're broken down. They're one player away from becoming a last place team. And yet, now, which I'm sure Mike's going to talk about, they're hitting all the home runs in the world with these torpedo bats. So even if on paper they don't have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball, right now they're hitting home runs like crazy. So I think the Yankees are going to be fine. I don't know if they're going to win the division this year. They're probably going to be a playoff team, but I think they'll be okay. And like the Yankees, they'll probably just load up and get one of the best starting pitchers at the trade deadline anyway to backfill their rotation. So I'm not too worried. If you're a Yankees fan, I'm not too worried. But if you're a Jays fan, I probably would be a little bit.
Well,
Bob, thanks for the you too. Thanks for the call. I wish things would go south for the Yankees for a little bit, but that's just me being petty, as I usually am. Let's get to another call. Mark, good morning. You're on with the Blue Jay Hunter.
Good morning, Ian. I've got a couple things for you.
Sure.
Nobody talks about Manoah anymore. Is he done? And the other point is, I don't have faith in Chad Green, but I do like Hoffman.
Right. Yeah, let's talk about Manoah first. So he's rehabbing from his Tommy John. I believe the earliest he could potentially come back is August, probably. Could be similar to a situation a few years ago when Hyunjin Ryu went down with injury, but he came back and contributed a handful of starts at the end of the season. So best case scenario, I think that's what we're looking at. Maybe, I don't know, 5 starts down the stretch. And Chad Green, I thought it was interesting yesterday. I don't know if it was a usage thing, but John Schneider went to the rookie Mason Flaherty at the end of the game there. And I thought maybe this is a position for Chad Green to come in. So they're not really leaning on him in high leverage situations. I think he was miscast as the closer last year simply because the Blue Jays didn't have any other better options. But yes, Jeff Hoffman, even just in the small 2 games we've seen from him so far, this dude is lights out. He's got electric stuff. So you could see why he's definitely, in the best case scenario, he is the Blue Jays closer and not Chad Green.
Okay, thanks, Ian.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Good to hear from you this morning. Before I let you go, Ian, let's talk about those torpedo bats. I'm not sure. Like, I'm a bit of a purist here. I think the whole point of the difficulty of hitting is you try to get the sweet spot of the bat onto the ball in the way that you approach a pitch, for example. This is, I don't know, I think changing that dynamic pretty dramatically. What do you make of these new things?
I mean, it's all legit. It's all above the board. What the Yankees are doing with these bats. Other teams have hitters who have deployed these bats. Davis Schneider on the Blue Jays has a torpedo bat. I just think the fact that, it was the Yankees, the New York Yankees, one of the biggest teams in Major League Baseball, and they faced, to be honest, not great pitching in the Milwaukee Brewers. I think if it was any other team, maybe we wouldn't have heard this much, but the Yankees now have 18 home runs in the first 4 games. So I just think it's because baseball is such a traditionalist sport. There's traditionally not a ton of innovation when it comes to equipment, and especially with hitting. So the fact that you see these kind of misshapen bats, it's really, it's got everyone in baseball talking, and I totally understand it. But I think from a fan perspective, I don't know, are we going to start seeing like torpedo slow pitch bats or metal bats? I think that's, if it gets down to that point, I think maybe it's a little bit oversaturated, but it's a neat thing. Like if it's above the board and if it's legit and they're doing everything legally, I don't see an issue with it.
We're off to a great start. The fans are obviously engaged, and we'll do this on a weekly basis moving forward. Ian, thanks for joining us again for another season.
My pleasure, Mike. We'll talk to you next week.
Look forward to it. Ian Hunter is the Blue Jay Hunter, and he'll be with us every Wednesday morning at 11 right through the Blue Jays season. Find out. Ian's pretty bullish on the team. I'm a little bit more pessimistic. We'll see how things play out as the season goes on. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, for the second consecutive day, doing the show from the road in Flint, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to do it again tomorrow because tomorrow is Game 4, Rangers Firebirds in this first round playoff series. Now a 2-1 series, Rangers leading after Flint won Game 3 last night, 2-0. So while we're on the road with the team in Flint, why not spend some time talking about the Kitchener Rangers, these playoffs, and what the Kitchener Rangers need to do in order to pick up that next win in the series and hopefully come home on Friday night and finish it off in Game 5. By the way, I got a message from a buddy who wondered when Game 5 tickets go on sale. They're on sale right now. So they went on sale at 10 this morning. Get your tickets for Game 5. We'll see you at the Memorial Auditorium on Friday night. You'll see Paul Fixter join me, our color commentator on Rangers broadcasts, to break down last night's game and what's ahead in this series coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, I don't know what it is about the Kitchener Rangers and first-round playoff series in the United States, but here we are again. This is shades of a year ago when we were in Erie doing the show remotely from the hotel there. Now we do the show remotely from the hotel in Flint, and I figured, well, if I've got to work while we're on the road, Paul Fixter has to work while we're on the road. So Fixie, our color commentator, joins me on the daytime show today to talk about. Let's start with the impact of last night. There were some long phases, not just on the part of the players, but on the part of our bus driver and others after the game last night. Fixie.
Well, when you're up in a series 2-0, I think you, especially coming off a big win in game 2, you expect to win. And Kitchener had through 2 periods, very dominant. They held the play for the most part, outshooting Flint and carrying the play and having opportunities on the power play. But there was a guy at the other end that said, no, not in my house. And Nathan Day was pretty darn good, and he shut the door. And then in the third period, Flint found another gear. Something was said to them between periods, whatever. They were a different team. And quite honestly, I thought they controlled the third period. They got the one goal that just ignited them. And then they got the shorthanded goal, Kitchener's power play. And 2-0 was tough to come back when you had the guy at the other end stopping everything. And so the long faces were, hey, we're in a series now, and there were some battered bodies and bruised bodies. And today's another day. You heard Matt Andonovski say last night after the game, 15 minutes. So I was with him earlier today, them being the team. Their spirits are high again.
Okay, let's talk about those battered bodies. And because we know, and look, everybody remembers, certainly listening today, because it was in Kitchener game 1. These teams came out like I'll just use the description again that a buddy shared with me. It was like the Roman Colosseum. Every player finished a check.
It was like the running with the Bulls.
Yeah,
in Spain. Get out of the way.
But how concerned should we be that the bodies are this battered after 3 games, Paul?
Concerned.
I thought maybe after 3 rounds.
The staff has a great setup here. It's like an infirmary almost down with Nick Lichty, the way he's got it set up. So they're able to recover. I think the day in between, having Nick Lichty do his thing, having Brandon Murley here to help in that regard really helps these guys recover. And, Mike, it's funny, as much as you have aches and pains and bumps and bruises, once the puck is dropped, you kind of forget about that and you go out and play. And then at the end of the game, you go, oh, yeah, I am sore. It's funny how it works in that regard. But I'm sure there's other teams. I know Windsor's going through a bunch of injuries right now. Other teams are bruised and battered as well. It's the team that is the least bruised and battered that seems to come out in the end.
Nick Lichty, the athletic therapist with the Kitchener Rangers, Brandon Murley, who Paul just mentioned, the director of sports science and an assistant coach. Brandon joined our intermission last night in the second period and got you some behind the scenes information about what his role is and how he supports this team. And you'll be hearing more of that during this playoff series. You'll hear from Nick Lichty. You'll hear from Nick Tatler, who helps out with team services. You'll hear from Dan Liebold, the head equipment manager, just to help give you some inside information and some behind the scenes information about what goes on with this team. As Paul just mentioned, you go into our breakfast room or our room that the team has taken over here for several days, and it does resemble to some degree a MASH unit there with the tables out and the stretching and all of the various things that the players can get to help those bumps and bruises.
Stationary bike and, et cetera. And when they got back from the rink last night, they didn't go, not all the players went to the rooms. They went to that and got treatment. And Nick Lichty, the athletic therapist, was in there well after midnight. I found out this morning. So they nonstop. In fact, when I was over doing Across the Hall segment with the head coach Paul Flash of the Flint Firebirds, I got talking to their equipment manager, and he was there at 6:30 in the morning and was sleeping there last night because they help out on the road. They help Danny Liebold and Nick Tatler don't have a washing machine here, don't have so their staff takes care of the Kitchener Rangers. And then conversely, when they come to Kitchener, Danny takes care of the Flint staff. So those guys were going to be there. And he said, you know what? I have to be here so early tomorrow morning. I might as well sleep here last night.
It's funny you say that, because on a completely other side of the whole road trip experience, I was downstairs earlier this morning getting ready for the show. Not even all the lights were on yet in the lobby. And when the lights started coming on and staff started moving through, I ran into the lady who's kind of been looking after the team in that room where we eat our meals and they have their little infirmary set up. And she said, I'm obviously cheering for Flint, but I hope you guys don't come back for game 6 because there's another event happening in the hotel. Not that we won't have rooms, but it's going to make such a long day and weekend for her. She says, if you guys come back on Saturday and I've got this other event, I'm just going to sleep here on Saturday night because I won't want to make the drive home and come back so early on Sunday morning for the next event. So
Lots of things happening. Yeah.
and lots of balls in the air. Okay, let's go back to that game last night. You talked about Flint kind of getting ignited in the third period, Paul, when they got that goal. They had 19 third period shots. They only had 13 through the first 2. So they definitely found that gear. The other thing, though, and you and I looked it up after the game because it occurred to us, that was only the second time all season the Kitchener Rangers were shut out. And the first time was game 68 when 10 regulars sat. So you could make the argument this Ranger team was shut out for the first time all season in game number 71.
Yeah, they were. And again, Nathan David was a big part of that. I thought, just getting back to the 19 shots that Flint had, Mike, I thought they played cautiously in the first period. Not what I expected out of them. I expected them to come out and play like it was game 7. And they didn't, in my estimation, they didn't play that way. Kitchener controlled the second period. And in the third period, they found a new gear, they being Flint. As for the shutout, game 68 against Guelph, 2-0 loss with a completely different team. The Kitchener Rangers had 10 players sitting out. Last night was their first shutout. And again, goaltenders can steal a game here or there. Goaltenders can steal a series here and there. I'm not suggesting Nathan Day is going to steal the series for Flint, but he certainly stole a game last night. And that steal resulted in a shutout for the Rangers. Rangers had some great scoring opportunities. I can think of 2 in particular, 3 really. Cameron Reed on the power play had a great scoring opportunity. Misljevic set up Pridham on a great scoring opportunity on the power play, and then on that ensuing play, Day was caught in behind the net. Humphreys had the puck on an open net and didn't sense that or whatever and threw it back to the point. So there were 3 really good opportunities. And I think it's a different game if Kitchener gets the first and or second goal. Now Flint's chasing, but Flint wasn't chasing. They were equal all the way and then got the lead, and Kitchener was the team chasing.
Matt Andonovski shared with you in his post-game interview last night, Paul, that the team will feel bad about this for 15 minutes and then get back to work. And you've seen that this morning, and they're ready to get back to work. But you also shared with me something after the game that I want to get out of you again from your time with the Colorado Avalanche and Pierre Lacroix.
Well, you've heard me say many times, Pierre used to start the season with us. He was the general manager of the Avalanche, and he'd say, guys, just so you know, we're going to lose at least 20 games this season in the regular season. Yeah, Pierre. And, inevitably, even those Stanley Cup teams, we did lose 20 plus games. Then we would start the playoffs, and he says, guys, coaches, just want you to realize you're not going to win every playoff series 4 straight. Yeah, okay, Pierre. Some series we did win 4 straight, but his point was it's ebbs and flows, momentum switches, and you're not going. There's good teams. Even the 8th place team playing the 1st place team is a good team. They made the playoffs. They beat somebody out who didn't make the playoffs, and he was right. I mean, series are hard to win, and I never once thought that Kitchener would win this 4 straight. I really didn't, and I did read Josh Brown's prediction. I just think it's difficult to sweep a team, Mike. Now, that being said, I did think Kitchener would win this in 5. If they win tomorrow night's game 4, they put themselves in a position to win game 5. And I sure as heck hope they do, because I don't want to have to get on the bus Saturday to come back here to play Sunday afternoon in game 6, because now then it's a real series. Momentum's a wonderful thing in the playoffs. And if you can carry it through into the next game, advantage you. I think Kitchener will have a good prep day today, get ready. And then I think we'll see a different team come out in the first period tomorrow and really take charge and try to get that 3-1 lead as opposed to 2-2 going back home.
And to further that point about how difficult it is to sweep, there are 8 series going on, obviously 4 in the West, 4 in the East. and only 3 are at 3-0. Hamilton or Brantford, pardon me, needed overtime in North Bay last night to take a 3-0 series lead. London got a 3-0 series lead over Owen Sound, and Kingston got a 3-0 series lead over Sudbury. But the Saginaw Spirit win to make it 2-1. Oshawa beats Brampton to go up 2-1. Sault Ste. Marie won the other night to make it 2-1. That's the only game going tonight up in the Soo, but Windsor leads that series 2-1. So that's kind of where we're at. And then the Niagara Ice Dogs picked up a win on home ice to make it 2-1 with Barrie. So there you go. This is not uncommon.
It's not. And you can look over it historically. And I think, a loss isn't a bad thing. I think maybe there's a bit of, I don't say overconfidence, but you beat a team. It was 6-1, right?
Yeah.
6-1. You're feeling pretty good about yourself. We got to their big star goaltender. Well, big star goaltender showed up, and I really give him a lot of credit for him being able to refocus and play a heck of a game. Name first star.
Paul Fixter, our color commentator on Kitchener Rangers broadcasts, joins me on the show this morning. We'll continue this conversation, take a look ahead to tomorrow night's Game 4, what Paul thinks the Rangers need to do in order to come home with that 3-1 lead. And we'll talk a little bit more about those Niagara Ice Dogs as well, because, oh boy, they may have won the game last night, but they're losing the PR battle off the ice for sure. Stay with us as we continue on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, the Flint Firebirds knock off the Kitchener Rangers 2-0 last night, and we've got ourselves a series in this round 1 matchup. Kitchener still leads 2-1, and that makes for a big Game 4 tomorrow night right here in Flint. Paul Fixter, who joins me on the show this morning, he and I will have all of your action from the Dort Financial Center tomorrow night. But just thinking ahead to that, Paul, and we talked about this during our pregame show last night. This is what I personally love about the playoffs. Every single game takes on more meaning than just the 60 minutes ahead.
And doesn't it seem that the mistakes, how big or how small they are, just seem to get magnified? Like you make a little mistake and boom, it's in the net. And I got talking to the coaches about the Petrie goal, which was the game-winning goal in a 2-0 game, the first goal. And I saw somebody had lost their stick, and I thought it was Cameron Mercer, but it was Carson Campbell, and then there was a stick exchange between Mercer and Campbell to give the defenseman the stick. But it was Chris Grisolia who had kind of lost his in all that confusion in the slot area. And Petrie was wide open and got the shot off. So it's just little things like that can really result in a scoring chance. And then obviously on the shorthanded goal, Humphreys is playing defense as he does, and it becomes an odd man rush on Cameron Reed and the rebound. So little things just seem to get more magnified. And as the clock starts to tick down, you realize, oh man, if we don't score here, this game moves on and they win and we move on to the next game and it's a series again. And I think that's what makes playoffs so much fun, because the emotions, like you've got players coming on the bus apologizing to Mike, the bus driver, for losing last night. So everybody takes it to heart.
They certainly do that. So look, the Rangers had their 15 minutes as players and as staff to dwell on it, get over it, move on, start focusing on the next game. Rangers Nation might still be feeling it a little bit this morning, and I get that, because the wins and losses are magnified too, particularly for the fans when we're into a playoff series. I firmly believe, Paul, and I think everybody understands this, the Rangers are the better team. They've got more skill. They've got more depth. Jackson Parsons, even though he was on the losing end last night, made a couple of tremendous Parsons-esque saves. So I fully believe the Rangers will still win this series. But tomorrow's a big game. You're either up 3-1 going home for Game 5, or you're in a 2-2 series and all of a sudden it's a best of 3. What do the Rangers need to do tomorrow night to make sure they're going home 3-1?
Well, they need to beat Nathan Day, and the way to beat Nathan Day is to generate a lot of shots like they did. But as the coach said post-game, they need to be more in his face, in his crease area, take away his eyes, not be a distraction in front of him, not allow him to see the puck as easily as he did last night. That's a big part of it. And, Mike, they're going to get power play opportunities, because we've seen Flint take penalties in all 3 games here. First 2 games, they were able to capitalize, go 3 for 8 in the first 2 games. They weren't able to score on the power play last night. And I thought the power play looked a little bit out of sync last night. Maybe Flint had made some adjustments. Maybe Kitchener was just off. It's a combination of both, probably. I think power play is crucial to scoring on the power play. Grant will like that. And also just being a little bit more active in and around Nathan Day. I think the defense for the Flint Firebirds did a pretty good job last night of boxing out and giving Day the opportunity to see the shots. There were some rebounds there. Coach didn't like that Kitchener wasn't able to jump on those rebounds. So I think if they maintain that sort of offensive upside, they'll be okay. They need to come out and be ready for another physical game. Clattenburg, Mania, Colosimo. These guys are, I don't want to say they're head hunting, but they're hunting heads as the games go along. It's been a very physical series. I happen to enjoy that part of the game. I'm just glad I'm not the one taking the hits. Wow, they've been some big hits.
Josh Colosimo's hit last night on Cameron Reed that started the fight with Jakob Kromiak. Holy moly, was that a body check?
Yeah, it was. To me, it was predatory. But, I'm kind of a fan and not an official. I thought it was predatory. I thought it was deserving of at least a penalty call. It wasn't. Cameron Reed, to his credit, got right up. Jakob Kromiak went over and defended his defense partner. And I thought it was great showing how close this team is. And Cameron Reed, as you mentioned on the show last night, on the radio last night, went right over and patted Kromiak on the backside and said, "Hey, thanks, buddy." This team is tight.
They certainly are that. So I'm going to stay here at the remote studio at the Hilton Garden Inn and finish the show today. You are off to the rink with the team as they get an off-day practice in.
Yep. There's a lot of black aces, as they're called, that'll get skating with Brandon Murley, Director of Sports Sciences, and the other players. I think there's probably going to be an optional. I did hear Jordan McCourt say Jackson Parsons might want to go on the ice. So it's all part of the preparation as we get ready for Game 4. We've kind of set the scene here. We'll go over to the Dordt Arena and see what the guys do there and be ready for Game 4. It's just with each game, it gets more exciting and more build-up and more at stake. Less games there are, more is at stake.
Absolutely. Don't forget to take an extra sweater with you because holy moly, did we get surprised in that rink last night?
I might take a blanket off the bed here, and yeah, it was chilly for sure.
All right, Fixie, we'll get ready for Game 4. You'll do some of that legwork this afternoon. Thanks for joining me here this morning.
Anytime, Mike.
Paul Fixter, color commentator with our Kitchener Rangers broadcasts here on 570 News Radio, joining us on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just a couple minutes away from the noon hour, your update in the 570 News Center, and then we've got a full hour to take your calls. So I'll leave it to you to bring me up to date on what's going on back home as I'm here in Flint. But just to finish one of the thoughts that Paul and I didn't get to in the interests of time, around the Ontario Hockey League, a really bizarre situation in Niagara where the players were disciplined by the Ice Dogs organization in Game 2 of their playoff series with the Barrie Colts. The Ice Dogs had to sit every player on their roster for one period of that game, or somewhere in the remainder of the playoff series with Barrie. I think they worked in most of the players during Game 2, which they lost. That included their starting goaltender. It was just a bizarre situation in what has been an organization that has behaved bizarrely for many years now. I didn't understand it. It cost them Game 2 for sure, but somehow the Ice Dogs were able to bounce back and pick up a win on home ice over Barrie last night and make it a series there too, with the Colts leading 2-1. But I've never heard of such a punishment being handed out to a hockey team. Every player, including the starting goaltender, must miss at least one period. Strange stuff. Anyway, we can talk a little more about the Kitchener Rangers. Obviously, we can talk about those tariffs. I still, is it just me? Am I the only one who in the back of his mind thinks that when Donald Trump addresses this issue from the Oval Office later today, there's not going to be anything? He's going to put another pause or something is going to be given by way of a break to Canada. I don't know. And anything else, of course, that happens to be on your mind. This wicked weather. Looks like the rain has stopped here, and we're going to climb to 17 degrees by nightfall here in Flint. You can update me on what's going on back home in that regard as well. Your Talkback Hour begins right after this update from the 570 News Center. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. All right, let's get right back to the phones. Continue talking to you on your Talkback Hour. Christine is next. Christine, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks, Christine. How are you?
Good. I'm headed to my aunt's, and I just heard a clap of thunder.
I had a clap of thunder so loud earlier this morning, little after 10, that it startled me. I actually jumped. That's how loud it was.
It's snowing, though.
Well, you got some snow. What do they call those? Snowstorm, thunder snow
Yeah.
you're getting. Yeah.
And what happened with Ice Dogs was they were rowdy at a movie theater, apparently.
Yeah,
That's
I
why
heard
they
all that.
benched them.
I heard that nonsense about getting rowdy at a movie theater, but that's quite the punishment, making them like.
I know, eh?
Yeah, it's pretty weird to me.
And let's go Rangers.
All right, Christine, thanks for the call.
Have a good
Appreciate
day.
it. Yes, you too. Thank you. Let's go Rangers tomorrow night, Game 4. You're going to hear it from Flint right here on 570 News Radio. Paul Fixter and I will start pregame coverage at 6:30 from Dort Financial Center tomorrow night. Tonight, by the way, back in Kitchener, don't forget the Titans playoff game. They will be at the Memorial Auditorium to open their playoffs. So get out there and support our local KW Titans. We continue our Talkback Hour with Hans, who joins the show. Hans, good afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Where this whole thing started out was there's a group of seniors that during the summer months they roller skate down at Campbellville Arena. Do you know what that is?
I'm not familiar with the Campbellville Arena. No.
Well, it's at a lower, it's the south side of Cambridge, but during the winter months they roller skate at the Breslau Community Center. But what happened on June of last year, it was a Tuesday because that's the only day they do it. Inadvertently, one of the other skaters and myself locked skates, and I went down. I was the one that ended up getting a beating out of it because I had a cut eyebrow, broken bone in my hand. But they put me on a stretcher, the one paramedic that was standing to my left stated, "Oh, we better remove the jewelry." And at the time, I never thought of it. And until later, why? There was nothing wrong with the rest of me. And
all right, Hans, I'm a little confused here. I think you're telling a story that only you know the details. I'm not sure what we're even talking about here.
Well, the jewelry that I used to wear, which was some of it was given to me by my wife and kids, others I bought, had been removed from my body and have never seen it since. And I talked to the paramedic at the office. The first time the young lady was rude. I talked to the supervisor. He said he from the time he called me until he come back was 3 weeks.
All right, so just let me understand this here. What you're doing, what you're saying is that you believe somebody, when you were on a stretcher after being injured while roller skating, took jewelry from you, stole it essentially, and you'd like to get it back. Okay, Hans, listen, hang on, Hans. I got to be real careful here, okay? Because this is a live radio program, and you're throwing around so this is a pretty serious accusation, and I don't want anybody to kind of be shed in a dark light or an inaccurate light. So this is obviously an issue that police have to be involved in, and if there's a case and a charge, and then we can absolutely follow that. But right now it sounds like you've got a story, and I'm sure whoever helped you that day has a story, and I can't be in the middle of this and have
but
people's names used in vain here.
Okay, but all I've asked for the ambulance service to kindly find out where this stuff went, or make some restitution for it. But all I've gotten from them for the past 9 months is a runaround.
So Hans, again, I'm going to tell you this is, and I'm going to let you go on this point because I can't have this stuff going on over the air like this, because I get it. You feel that you've been wronged. Talk to the police, please. Hopefully, maybe a lawyer can help you out a little bit. But I'd start with the police. That's where the issue is. If you believe your property has been stolen, and begin the investigation in that way. But I can't litigate something live on the show like this. I'm sorry. I wish I could. It all started when I was roller skating at Campbellville Arena. That's I get that you're having an issue, and I'm sorry I can't be more helpful in that regard. Bob, let's go to you next on our Talkback Hour. Good afternoon, Bob.
Hey, Mike. Hope you're
Hello,
having a
Bob.
good day.
I'm having a great day.
Okay. I was just wondering, well, I have two things. Why Pierre hasn't said anything about working with the provinces to improve health care, which Liberals have. And why he talks about Trump, he looks like a nervous little kid. Have a good day, Mike.
Thanks, Bob. I appreciate the call. Liberal Bob is always consistent in his messaging. Pierre Poilievre, bad. Liberals, good. And I like the consistency. This is your Talkback Hour on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. In case you were wondering, it's not you, it's us. In a manner of speaking, really, it's Mother Nature. I am so upset with her right now. My chaps are chafed right down to the bone with this rotten weather, but apparently it is impacting our signal, which is almost redundant to say, because if you're hearing a very staticky station or not hearing it at all, I'm talking to nobody that's impacted by this. If you're hearing the station well enough, you know you're still getting it well enough. But the weather is wreaking havoc with us today. It's got nothing to do with the tin can and shoestring that I've tied up here from Flint to get the show on the air today. And I kid about that. We've got a very good high-tech modern setup here at the Hilton Garden Inn. So it's not on this end. Unfortunately, it's the weather wreaking havoc back home. So if you're hearing a lower quality signal than you usually do, my apologies for that. Not much we can do given the weather that you're experiencing back there, but our excellent engineering team is working on the issue. For those that are still with us, love hearing from you on the Talkback Hour, 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. I feel a little bit like those days where we're activating the storm center in bad winter weather and telling everybody to stay home. We come to the radio station, we go to work to tell you to not go to work or go to school. And now I feel like I'm telling you, well, here's why you can't hear us very well. But if you can't hear us very well, you probably stopped listening. Let's go back to the phones on our Talkback Hour. Grant, good afternoon. Hello, Grant. Why does Grant do this to me? Anything? No? Okay, Grant. I'm going to say goodbye to Grant, and we'll talk to Wendy instead. Wendy, good afternoon.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Just great, thanks. It's Mike, by the way.
I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay, Wendy. That's okay.
Anyways, I'm just calling to say it was a great game Friday night. It was my first time my husband ever been to a game, and he said it was amazing. And now we're trying to get it on our TV set. We can't. We listen to you on the radio, though. And
well, thank you for that.
And he says, like, he'll never watch the Leafs again after this. They put on a really good game. And, yeah, he's been trying to get tickets, and they're always sold out. So I guess we'll be listening to you on the radio.
All right, Wendy, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Good to hear from you, and I really appreciate the support. We are always here on the radio, every home and away game. That's why with the team in Flint right now, that's where I'm broadcasting from this week. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Look, I love that you listen to the games, and I appreciate that you listen to the games. But a former executive with the Kitchener Rangers once told me, don't ever say sellout. We can always find room for one more bum in a seat. So if you want to, Wendy, I'll bet you and your hubby can get a couple of tickets to Game 5 on Friday. But get them fast because the tickets went on sale this morning. This is the Mike Farwell Show. Your Talkback Hour continues on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. This is absolutely the part about the tariff nonsense that has always confused me. Like, I've never met Donald Trump. I don't know much about him other than that he seems to be the kind of person who craves attention, loves being in the spotlight, has a very healthy ego, and really has been a personality more than anything in this life, right? The television show The Apprentice, I think, showed us all of that many years ago. But I don't know how he can't understand. Like, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, okay? But I wondered from the very beginning, given that free trade on this continent has been just that for the last 40 plus years, free between Canada, the United States, etc. Mexico comes in with more recent agreements, and here we go. And now applying these tariffs is going to hurt the American economy. Of that, there is no question. And so why the man who claims to be all about the economy, all about putting more money, repatriating money to the United States of America, is going to apply these tariffs and essentially send the American economy into a tailspin. And upon whom will Donald Trump blame that when it happens? I don't quite understand it. I understand the mindset. I understand what he thinks he's doing by bringing back jobs, by bringing back industry, and long term, and by that I mean 10 years or more. Sure, maybe that's exactly what ultimately happens. But remember, when this happened almost 100 years ago, it sent us into the Great Depression, not just a recession, but a depression. It doesn't make economic sense from anybody that I have talked to. But I sit here today and I can't help but wonder, with this whole on again, off again, pause, here's the deadline, now today's Liberation Day, and we're expecting to hear from Donald Trump later this afternoon. I can't help but think that maybe, just maybe, and it might be a pretty strong maybe, he has a different idea by the time 4 o'clock today rolls around. We shall see. But I can't quite connect the dots between the imposition of these tariffs and the impact on the U.S. economy. Forget the impact on Canada's economy. We know it's going to hurt here too. But I don't understand the motivation then for Donald Trump and why he would want to hurt his own economy this way. And furthermore, because we know that, I understand the idea of let's stand up to the bully and punch him back in the nose. But the more we reciprocate, the more we run the risk of hurting our own economy and sending us into a recession as well. Most of us just pawns on this great big chessboard in North America right now, aren't we? Given these political tensions, of course, between Canada and the U.S. since Donald Trump was returned to the Oval Office, there have been a lot of people changing a lot of plans when it comes to travel across the border, going to warm weather states, for example. And I'm not here to be your travel agent or to huck for American tourism, but it just so happens that I did a border crossing myself about 48 hours ago to get down here to Flint so that we could be here for this playoff series between the Rangers and the Firebirds. And I did wonder, what's the border crossing going to be like? What are people going to be like in America when I encounter them here? And I'm here to tell you, not only was the border crossing about the same as any other border crossing I've ever had, but the folks down here, and I've made a point of talking to many. The first night we went to dinner, which would have been Monday night, talked to the folks in the restaurant because as we're walking in as a team, so it's a bit of a spectacle, right? And the guy's like, oh, you're Canadians. You're the Canadians, right? I'm like, yeah, we're the Canadians. Is it okay? How do you feel about the Canadians being in your restaurant? Oh, I love the Canadians. I especially love hockey because he had his Michigan accent going on, you know? And we talked about some of his favorite hockey players and how much he loved the game of hockey. But the reception couldn't have been any better than it was. And we certainly enjoyed a really nice meal. And we've been working our way around the area near the hotel into the hockey arena with Flint. There was no booing of O Canada when it was performed at the Dort Financial Center last night. There has been no unfortunate or uncomfortable interaction with our fellow humans here in Flint. There doesn't seem to be any animosity between Michiganders and us Ontarians / Canadians. We got a couple of American kids on this hockey club with the Rangers, and Christian Humphreys and Hayden Ellis, and everybody's getting along just fine on the team and in this city. So again, I'm not trying to huck here for American tourism and tell you that you should travel to Florida or that you should travel to Arizona or that you should travel to Maine. It's totally up to you. If you want to repatriate some tourism dollars and take a domestic staycation, absolutely go right ahead and do that. But my experience over the past 48 hours or so, with another, what do we got left? 36 or so left here until we play the game tomorrow night, has been fine. There hasn't been a single issue in any regard. And I did take some time yesterday to go out of my way and deliberately engage in conversation with some of the Americans here in Flint to find out just how they did feel about us Canadians. And I don't know that the response will surprise you, but I'll let you hear it right after this break. The Talkback Hour continues. You're welcome to be a part of the conversation, and you'll hear just how our reception has been here in Flint coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Your daily Talkback Hour is your opportunity to start the conversation. If it's important to you, it's important to us. So give us a call. Let us know what's going on in your world or what issue it is that's got you excited and enthusiastic today. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. I mentioned before the break that I spent some time. I thought, listen, I'm here in the States. There was a lot of conversation with friends before I came down to the States about what it would be like when I got here, what the border crossing would be like. I'm pleased to report everything has been normal, just as it has been every other time I've crossed the border. But I figured while I'm here, why not talk to my fellow citizens of the world? And I went around to some folks before the hockey game in Flint yesterday to find out just how they feel about us Canadians these days. And here is what they had to say.
I came all the way here from Canada. All right. And everybody in Canada says, you're going to the United States? The United States hates Canada now. I don't feel like that's the case.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
I know, that's what I want to know. So we're still friends. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm telling you, yeah, we're good friends still.
What's your favorite thing about Canada?
I don't know. I've never been, so I really don't know.
If you were to go, where would you want to go?
Where would I want to go? Kitchener, Friday, so we know that we push this series out another game.
The biggest thing I like about Canada is all the lakes and the fisheries and stuff like that. I've always wanted to go fishing, and obviously hockey it came from Canada, so we wouldn't be here right now without Canada itself. And I don't understand why everybody's throwing shade at each other, and I don't see no problems. I think it's all politics at this point. So what are we going to do?
How does it feel to be on a border state to the great country of Canada?
I mean, can't complain about it. We could be bordering other crappy states of the United States, which we already are. So I think we dislike Ohio more than we dislike Canada.
What is it you don't like about Ohio?
Ohio State University. I am a Michigan fan. I'm from Flint, born and raised as well. And what is it, like 1,900 plus days since they beat us in football? So that's a good thing.
Okay, the most important question is, they're going to play two anthems here tonight before the game, O Canada and the Star-Spangled Banner. Will you boo O Canada when it's being sung?
Absolutely not.
We never have.
No, never have. Never will. Half these kids, or I should say probably 90% of these kids they're from Canada. Like, why not play it? That's where they came from. Where's the problem?
Does it matter to you who wins our election in Canada? Because we're about to elect a new prime minister. Do you care who it is?
Try to stay out of it because it just starts arguments. So politics are politics, and just try to enjoy our lives and do what we can.
I think we are proving right now that Americans and Canadians are absolutely still friends. What do you think?
I agree with that. Yep, I agree with the comment.
And you?
Absolutely.
How do you feel about Canada right now?
I have no problems with Canada.
Did you ever have a problem with Canada?
Nope. I don't have any problems. I don't know. As long as go Firebirds, but I mean, if Canada wins, it is what it is. At least they played a good game. I really don't pay attention to politics, but I hear things, so.
I just wanted to check in on something here, okay?
Okay.
I came here from Canada, and people said, you're going to the United States? The United States hates Canada now.
No.
But I don't think that's the case. That's not the case?
No.
No. Why not?
It's one person. It's one person. I'll be honest.
Is that one person the president of the United States right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you feel about Canadians?
I got no problem with them. I love Canada. I cover Canada for work.
Do you?
Yeah.
What parts of it?
All of it.
All of it?
From Nova Scotia all the way to British Columbia. I have the whole Canada, everything.
That's amazing.
Yep. But I like going in Ontario because I can watch hockey.
So what parts of Canada have you visited?
Mostly Quebec and Ontario.
Okay.
But we're going to go to New Brunswick next year.
But you don't have any concerns about crossing the border and going to the great country Canada?
Not at all. Not at all. We pay a little bit extra now on electrical. It is what it is. We can't control it. We still have friends in the Great White North. Absolutely.
Still have friends in the Great White North? Absolutely. And Doug Ford's electricity tariffs seem to have gotten into Michigan. They're aware that we're going to turn off the lights or something like that, which was threatened in all of this. But there you go. The politics, I'm staying out of it. I've got no problem with Canada. Getting too involved in politics just causes fights. And oh yeah, by the way, I would much rather border Canada than some of the crappy states, i.e. Ohio, that I currently border. And that's spoken from the perspective of a sports fan, of course, because if you are a Michigan sports fan, you can't stand Ohio State University. There's the view from the streets of Flint. We are still friends. This is the Mike Farwell Show, your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Dear Heavenly Lord, what is happening back home? I just got another video from my beloved. Good grievous. I put the snow shovels away, so you can hang this on me. Last weekend, I got the Christmas lights down and the winter stuff, equipment, put away. That's it. It's not coming back out. So come on, Kitchener bylaw, write me a ticket for an uncleared sidewalk. It ain't happening. Just rain still here in Flint. And by the way, as staticky as things are on the air through our transmitter, if you stream through the good old interwebs on our Seeker app or elsewhere, you'll find the signal is crystal clear. So that might help clean up any of the issues you might be having with our signal today in this rotten weather. Talkback Hour continues. Let's go to the phones. Walter is with us. Good afternoon, Walter.
Good afternoon. I take it you're not getting this weather down there, eh? But you know what? I'll tell you that I think this is Trump, eh? What he's actually he has been, you know, a cloud seeding, eh? This is a Colorado low coming up and hitting us here. But you know something? I don't really mind it, Mike, because it fills in all the potholes that are on the roads around here right now. It almost cost me a tire, but. I just want to say good luck to you in the game. And I've been watching, and other than last night, you guys are doing not too bad. So all the best to you, Mike.
Thanks, Walter. Nice to hear from you, a fellow OHL fan. Walter is a fan of the Guelph Storm, but even extending well wishes the Kitchener Rangers way. It is a 2-1 series, Kitchener leading Flint, and Game 4 is tomorrow night. We are here for it, and you will hear the game right here. We are your home of Kitchener Rangers hockey, so Paul Fixter and I will have pre-game coverage from Dort Financial Center Arena tomorrow night at 6:30, and you won't miss a minute of the action or the behind-the-scenes info that we're bringing you from life on the road with the Rangers in these playoffs. Yesterday, of course, was the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. And I don't know if you heard what happened at the Thames Valley District School Board near London. It's a school board that's had its share of difficulties lately, not the least of which is a $16 million deficit. Layoffs have been happening, et cetera. Well, the interim director of the Thames Valley District School Board sent out an email yesterday letting staff know that retroactive to September of this year, the beginning of the school year, there was now a $10 per day or per week, parking fee for staff within the board. And so the retroactive fee was $320, and it's going to be $10 a week moving forward, coming off your paycheck. So this money is coming off your check right now, $320, and you're going to pay $10 a week moving forward. This is going to help cut down on that $16 million deficit. And an hour later, he sent out the that was just an April Fool's joke email. But apparently, the hour in between, some people said this caused us emotional distress. And now he has had to apologize for his April Fool's joke. Like, come on with your coming on. If you can't take a joke, get out of the school board. Can I put it that way? I just did. All right, I'm going to send you over to Rob Snow with Now You Know, taking you through until 3 this afternoon, and I'll come back tomorrow morning at 9. We'll do this all over again, okay? My name is Mike Farwell. Bye for now.